It's really nice to be in this forum and share some nice insights about people who are seeking career ahead of their studies and everything. And I basically coined my title for this presentation in a nice way, like building a strategic network. And I've used my personal photos and some beautiful photos from my colleague, who is also a colleague of me in my PhD in Kenya. He's called Evout. So some of these beautiful photos you'll see there don't belong to me. But I love sunset and sunrises because for me they give me a future or a hope of tomorrow, and that's what makes me going. So I will go to the next slide. You've already done that, and this is the title of my presentation: building a strategic network. How do you do that, and why is it important for you as a person who is looking toward the future? And one of the very important things we need to ask ourselves is, why is it important for you to build this strategic network? And why is it not just a network? First, you basically need to be a strategic networker, because you need to understand certain aspects, in the sense that what and where do you want future you to be? We all following certain programs. We all following master's program. We all maybe doing different stages of our careers, and in our daily activities, we always wishes to be, oh, I want to work in this company. I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to initiate something somewhere. But for you to go to that next level, you need to identify potential people that can work with you, that can make you progress and prosper. And that's why I needed to put this here. Why do you want to build a strategic network for yourself? The most important thing is you want to build a relevant and a connecting network, because you cannot just making a network that does not help you. You do not want to waste your energy. You do not want to waste your time meeting different people who probably are not in your field or who do not connect with what your interests are. So the very most important thing is, one, you have to be a strategic networker. Number two, you must be able to define where do you want to be tomorrow or in 3 or 5 years to come. And of course, you want to make sure that you can build not just a network, but a connecting network that within 2 or even 1 year after you finish your MSc, your BSc, you can call someone and that person can remember you. That is what is connecting network for me. And where and how do you do this? Networking happens everywhere. Sometimes we assume things, even that point you meet someone by the lift, it can be a connecting moment, even meeting someone by your door, even that postman who always delivers your posters every morning or in the evening. That is also part of networking, because that person can give you an opportunity to work somewhere if you express or if you talk about yourself. You also have to simply be strategic by simply, one, we all are leaders, by reading yourself. You need to project yourself toward a certain direction that attracts people, or find yourself in a certain position whereby you can be able to strategically talk to people, engage with people. But you do not just engage. You do this by having a certain goal. Why are you doing it? Are you doing it because in 1 year time, you're finishing your career, you're finishing your master's, or in 1 year time, I am finishing or I'm planning to start my PhD. In 4 years time, I am finishing my PhD. So what is the goal? Am I networking? Am I doing a networking session with someone? So these are the questions you need to ask yourself: how and where? And you definitely have to be a reader by yourself. If you're not a reader by yourself, then you may not be able to achieve what you want to be towards the goals of your life or towards your future. And I always like using myself as an example because I like telling my story. My story rotates or revolves around networking. I am a social person. I like going out in different forums where I can be able, not just even as a participant, just be there to listen and understand what is happening. And within that audience, you can be able to strategically position yourself to meet different people that you can talk to. However, there is a big question. What does this? What does it entail to be a strategic networker? You must be brave enough to initiate a conversation. If you're not brave enough to initiate a conversation, be very sure you cannot make a nice network. So you have to come out and be able to potentially speak out, be able to initiate different sorts of conversation. Often because we have the tendency of looking up for opportunities, we dive straight to like, oh, I'm looking for this job, without having a certain atmosphere to engage, you know. And sometimes people are too bold of like, my day work is a bit, today was not the best day, and they want to hear something totally different. The very good example I'll give myself is how I got this PhD. How did I get my PhD? I found myself in a forum, in a dinner, and I was engaging with one of the member of the staff in Wageningen, and we talked different things. We basically talked about holidays. And the person happened to say, "Oh, I've been to. Oh, you said you're from Kenya, and yeah, I've been to Kenya. It's a very nice place. I went there to do some holiday, and I went to the coast, and I was doing some project. I was accompanying my husband to do a certain project, and so on." And the conversation ended there. But what happens almost like a month later, I got an email telling me, "Joshua, I'm introducing myself to be so and so because we feel that we've had a chance to give you because we feel you are a suitable person." And this came out of a network talk that I did not imagine that they will feature something. But what happened? It is because I was able to balance a conversation. And balancing the conversation is being able to engage and being able to listen. Because what will you remember? What will you remember in this conversation? You will remember that I was able to explain, and probably later on, you will ask a certain question that I will be able to answer. And that is what makes you to engage and listen. So you remember that, oh, that answer that I gave was really nice. Then the other aspect that you really need to focus on is you need to spend time with people to build a strong relationship. This is not always the case because sometimes you do not have this opportunity. You've gone for a seminar, you've gone for a workshop, you met with people, they don't have much of your time. But how can you create a strong relationship with them? It is by being able to pick certain aspect within them. And this is by being able to let them know how capable are you? What do you do? What is your progress? Which stage are you in? And by doing this, you're trying to sell yourself. You're trying to pitch yourself that you can be able to do this and you can be able to achieve depending on what they are doing or which field they are. And by pitching yourself, you're trying to be a business card by yourself. Note that, by yourself, because I have had incidences whereby you give someone your business card. Many people don't have time to read those business cards. So the most important thing is to make sure that you can utilize that moment to tell a story about yourself and be able to convince that person that, I would be happy to reach out to you. Because the other thing that you have to do is being a networker is also making sure that you have a follow-up a follow-up because you're interested on whatever you want to connect with. So always ensure that you make follow-up and never shy away from following up. Sometimes you go looking at a business card that you get from people and you're like, what if this person doesn't respond to me? So the very most important thing is to make sure that you can be able to follow up and make sure that you can speak to people. But I also want to add on something before I finish and say that the other very important thing in networking the current modern world is your social media tool. And how best can you use your social media tool in being a good networker? I am in LinkedIn. I am in Facebook. For the person who gave me this PhD to be frankly and be sure that I am the suitable person, it was because my social media, particularly LinkedIn, was up to date, because nowadays information flow is in our social media. And I think it's mainly particularly on Facebook and LinkedIn. So how best do you use your LinkedIn? How often do you update your LinkedIn? What information do you put in your Facebook? Because is it content-wise? Is it current issues? Is it trading aspects? So you need to define yourself as a person, as an icon. You are an icon by yourself. So you need to be sure that as much as you're an icon, you're presenting yourself that if someone reads your profile, can be quickly to judge and say, this potentially would be the person that we want to get into our organization or into our network. So make sure as you do your networking, it is also very important to make sure that always have a positivity in yourself. Sometimes, depending on the situation that we are, you might find yourself talking a negative about yourself. Of course, we all have our negative side, but how can you engage in a positive oriented conversation? Because that is what matters, whether the conversation that you've had will be memorable. So in whatever you engage, in whatever person that you meet in your daily life, that person can be a potential person to position you in a good place. So make sure that balance your conversation, bring positivity in the conversation, and most important, make sure you are a business card by yourself. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Joshua. Clearly, it's very important to sort of be aware of yourself and be aware of who you're talking to and how to make connections. And thank you so much for your presentation.
You're welcome.
Yeah, if anybody has any questions for Joshua, feel free to write them down on the chat section. We have already received some questions personally, but it'll be nice if you send it on the chat section as well. Yeah, so let's move on to the next speaker, Chinmay Vyas. Chinmay was born and brought up in India. He did his bachelor's in electronics and communications and a master's in electrical engineering soon after in Delft. He specialized in telecommunications and sensing. He graduated recently in, hi Chinmay. You graduated recently in December 2019, so congratulations. And throughout your academic life, you've had a stellar record of academic publishing and have done internships in the Indian Space Research Organization, as well as SES Video at The Hague. And like Joshua, you've also been very active with the community. You've been a member of the Student Council, as well as a member in a variety of technical associations. So thank you again for agreeing to do this event, and the floor is all yours.
Let me share my screen.
Sure.
So can you all see my screen? Yeah. So, hello everyone. This is Chinmaya, and as introduced, recently graduated last year, 2019 December, from electrical engineering, specializing in telecommunications. Um, this is a pretty cool picture because I work in a satellite industry. So that's the motive behind this background. So yeah, this has been discussed. I studied bachelor's of electronics and telecom from Mumbai in 2013, started that. Then in 17 finished it, came here in TU Delft to pursue electrical engineering, did my internship and master thesis at SES, then eventually joined as a junior solutions engineer in January 2020 this year. And before coronavirus, I got the opportunity to travel with my work at 3 places other than Netherlands, which is Luxembourg, US, and Greece, which is quite a cool part of my work because my work involves traveling since my job is customer oriented. And I really like the fact that when SES, we have 81 nationalities. So it's a quite international and diverse organization that I work in. A bit introduction about what my company does. It's a satellite operator. It has satellites in 2 different orbits, GEO, which is 36,000 kilometers, MEO, 8,000 kilometers. And as the tagline says, we do extraordinary space to deliver amazing experiences all over the earth. I particularly work in the maritime section where we provide data connectivity to cruise, commercial ships, ferries that go on around the world. Other than that, the company also broadcasts various TV channels to 1 billion people, giving connectivity when you are flying in air in Emirates or Qatar Airways or anyone. We serve that and restore connectivity when there is any disaster like floods or something, wherein usually the connectivity is disturbed, and then providing support to telcos. Best part of working is you work in a spider web of major tech giants, Microsoft, Telefonica, Panasonic, European Commission, etc. So that's one cool part of working with this organization. Now, bit how I started working in the space industry. So as said, I started doing an internship in ISRO, which really when I was back in India. So I did internship in a remote sensing center in Jodhpur, wherein I worked on a project and which particularly caught my eye for and developed my interest in satellite communications. Then I subsequently published quite a lot of papers in IEEE conferences and in other international journals, which led to my admit in TU Delft eventually. And then when I came into TU Delft, as a part of my coursework, I did an internship for 4 months with SES. I liked it. And then eventually I did my master thesis at SES. And then if, everything turned out well, I was really liking the company. And then they offered me a position this year, January, and I opted for that. So that's how my journey started in space industry. Now, the important part why we are all here for is what were the challenges faced by me in securing a job here? First things first, internship. That's the most crucial part of any student's career. Why? Because it really is a very hot spot to decide what you want to do, which companies are working in those areas, in those particular region where you are studying, and then deciding, hey, whether I really like that job or not, or whether I really like that profile or not. So that was one major decision making that I had to do, which took quite a lot of time. So it took around me to 6 months to decide, search for the companies, and then eventually apply, and then being accepted in 4 different companies. Lack of work experience is all what freshers are quite scared of. But I would say this was another challenge that I faced, that is lack of work experience, because I had little to zero professional work experience. And I didn't know how to maneuver and how to go through and how to put myself in the challenging job market, and specifically out of my country. So that was another challenge that I faced. When you are studying, this is another major hurdle, which is managing job search with master thesis plus courses. When I was in my second year, I had few resits that I had to give. Then I was managing them with my thesis and then a job search. I eventually tackled it via having a structured plan, giving a 1 hour a day, possibly taking out 1 hour each day for job search, searching, shortlisting companies, and then eventually applying in them helps a lot. This is a most important challenge that is feared by everyone, not knowing Dutch language. I was very worried when I came to Netherlands that, hey, how am I going to secure a job that I don't know Dutch language at all? But hey, when I researched and I realized that the companies are fairly international here, they require you to have a fluency in English, and that is in most cases enough for them. So if you are scared, don't be. That will be my advice. Tips for job search in the Netherlands would be having a crisp CV and resume. That's really important. Having point-to-point things mentioned in your CV with keywords is what keeps your CV aside from the rest of the applicants, because the recruiters here really look for really crisp CVs. They don't want you to mention all the possible details, but really get to point. Secondly, an updated or a detailed LinkedIn profile can work wonders, as Joshua mentioned in his presentation as well about the social media influence that you can have. To add to that, I would say keywords are really important. Let's say, for an example, I'm working in telecommunications and I really am interested in SDN and FV. So in your bio, you should really mention those points, because that's how LinkedIn search algorithm basically works, wherein recruiters can search you through that, and your name comes up first eventually. So little bit, it's good to know how LinkedIn works. Thirdly, using career fairs to your advantage. Most of the students usually go out the career fair, learn about the companies, but hey, it's a good time before the career fair, 2 or 3 days before, just research a bit more about the companies. When you go in there, have a CV in your hand and reach out to the recruiters, because that's a golden opportunity that you get to speak to the recruiters one by one and have relevant questions prepared for them already. Do a bit of research about the company beforehand. That can actually help you, making connections with the recruiters. And that's what basically happened with me. My recruiter came in at DDB, a career event in Delft, and I reached out to them, and eventually I got an internship, then a master's thesis, and now a job. So this really works from a very personal experience. Connecting with relevant people for networking and advice. I think I don't need to elaborate that. Joshua pretty well elaborated this point. But just to add to that, professors are a really good asset that we all have. So try and network with them, and also the students that have graduated previously from your course. Try to be in touch with them and see what they say about the current job opportunities, because they are also associated with different companies, so they can also refer you somewhere. So that's another important aspect. Well, these three terms, proactiveness, enthusiasm, and opportunistic, might sound quite psychological, but they go a really long way. Why? Because if you are a fresher, or be it of any experience, recruiters are looking for these three terms in you. Proactiveness and enthusiasm, and being opportunistic, grabbing on every opportunity that they give you, being enthusiastic about whatever they want you to do, and also you should like that. And then being proactive and raring to go at that opportunity really helps. And this should actually be imbibed in you. Being open and transparent, this is really important. Why? Because you should be honest to yourself that, hey, this is the thing that I really like and I really want to do it. So you'll have the inner motivation to do that, and you won't feel scared or bored while searching for that. So you should be really clear about these things. My very last point of my presentation is many people consider, or I mean, it's a general thing that, hey, I'm an international, how am I going to search the job in Netherlands or be it anywhere? I have certain disadvantages. But to be very frank, companies look for people who are from different backgrounds, from different cultures, because they also want their employees to function well in different cultures and with different people from different backgrounds, because that's how the world is now with globalization and world becoming more cosmopolitan. This is the need of the hour. So I would say that being international is actually an advantage, not a disadvantage. Well, thank you so much. And yeah, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn and send me an email if you have any questions further. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Chinmay. That was very informative, and I hope everybody took something from your presentation as well. Right now, I think we'll take a break till 2:15, so a 7-minute break, and then let's start again with the question answer session. So in the meantime, yeah, you guys can, post your questions in the chat section. All right, so let's come back in 5-6 minutes. All right. Let's start with the Q&A session. If I could request both Joshua and Chinmay to switch on their videos, as well as Francesca. Hi.
Hi.
Joshua, we can't see you. Is your video on?
Yeah, my video is on. I will put it on again.
Yeah, sure.
Now?
No, it's completely, yes, it's fine now. Yeah. So for this session, Francesca will be taking over. So yeah, on to you.
Okay. So we wanted to give you some questions that we formulated once as a from this and from ISOW, and after that we will propose. We will go on to the questionnaire from the audience, if it's okay for you guys.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so I will ask a question for Chinmay, and I'll ask a question to Joshua. So we alternate both of them. So first of all, we start with Chinmay, and we want to ask, apart from LinkedIn and career events, what are the other typical websites that could assist in job hunting?
Other than that, I personally looked at Glassdoor, because they, other than searching for salary insights, they also given job opportunities. But to be very frank, LinkedIn for me was a very complete source. One thing that I used to do, I used to take business cards from the recruiters from the career fairs, and then I used to keep them. And whenever I used to reach them out, I used to email them and be like, hey, do you have any other opportunity in your company? And we met at this. So just creating a connection and somewhat. So I didn't necessarily used other than Glassdoor and LinkedIn. First of all, LinkedIn was a complete source, but yeah, this is what I did other than that.
Oh, interesting. Glassdoor is another platform where you can find a job?
Yes.
Okay. And for you, Joshua, what is the process of securing a PhD after a master? Do you have to approach your professor first, for example, or come up with a proposal?
That's a good question, actually, and also a very interesting question. Sometimes they are in the website. There are always PhD position. If you go to different websites of universities or research group, they will have position for PhD. However, some of these professors are looking at people who understand their concept, and they don't go very far. They are just looking within their circles. And within their circles is people, students that they have worked with. Either they have interacted with them in the classroom, they have interacted with them, probably they were somewhere in the field. So that is one of the easiest option, the head hunting. So the professors will do their head hunting and they will propose you the idea, and then are you interested? If you're interested, then you're lucky enough. However, LinkedIn is also a very nice platform. I have connected myself with a lot of certain universities that I was interested in. But I have to tell you frankly as well, I didn't see myself doing a PhD that quickly. So I have to be very frank. So it also came as a surprise, because when I finished my master's, I did 1 year of the student council, and when I finished that, then I graduated, and I had already gotten a sort of a volunteer that was taking me to the direction of getting a job within one of the departments in Wageningen University. So, and this resulted from my networking with different people that I meet and making sure that they are aware, like, oh, what is my next step? My next step is doing this and this. So, yeah. So, and that's why the power of network. Do the people, do the lecturers, do the teachers, do the staff you meet with, do you talk to them? Do they know what you want to do? And also, most important is also your study advisors and also the secretaries. The secretaries are very important. Sometimes people assume them, but they are people who have all information at their hand, because all emails come from there. Any requests also come through them. So, and yeah, it's also important for, if you wish to do a PhD, you can visit different platforms. Different research groups have different platforms. So, like I belong to a WIMEC. It's called WIMEC. So in Wageningen, there are different graduate school. There is WIMEC, there is WISA, there is SPEC, there is a social science group, and many other graduate school. So if you go to a Wageningen website, you are able to see this, and you are able to see what opportunities they do have.
Oh, very interesting.
Yeah.
Then for Chinai, what are some of the key characteristics of the Dutch working culture and international students should be prepared for?
Okay. Well, I've worked in a fairly international organization, but from my Dutch colleagues, what I see, they're pretty direct. They'll tell you on your face whatever it is, whether you're working well or not, you're good, you'll be appreciated. If you're not, then be ready for being told the same. And other than that, this is the main difference that exists, basically, that they are pretty direct in their own ways. So yeah, they are slightly less diplomatic.
Oh, okay.
I agree with him when he said less diplomatic. Yeah. That's a good, I would call it a political statement, but it's a good one.
And then for Joshua, how exactly does funding work? How do you get grants for your PhD?
Ah, yeah, nice one. So there are different type of PhDs. Some of the PhD are fully funded, and basically, how does a PhD comes up? They are basically projects. They are either new project or they are either ongoing project. So within an ongoing project, probably they have noticed that they need to understand a certain concept or a certain theme, and that's how they go looking for an additional candidate. Along the same different project, the professors keep looking for opportunities for funding, because they also want to make sure that they want to guarantee the continuity of project, the continuity of their work, and new innovation that are coming up. So they also go ahead to approach different companies, different foundation, and that's how partner with different research institute, and that's how you have these many international students coming from either China, coming from different part of the world, Africa, either being sponsored by their research institute, partnering with Wageningen University. So you might be having your own money, because there are people who fund their PhD with their own money. I don't have that money to fund myself. I was lucky that my project has money that is funding on me, but it's money that has been fundraised, or proposals has been written to make sure that a project can start and can be guaranteed that it can run for 4 years, because you don't want to find yourself losing the grip when you're on a third year because of the financial challenges.
Oh, okay, understood.
Yeah.
And for Chinai, what exactly do you need to put in the CV?
Oh, okay, so basically, first things would be your LinkedIn ID. And if I have to start from top, LinkedIn ID, and then your nationality is also good, so that you're not confused. Sometimes recruiters have a back forth email, hey, what's your nationality? And then eventually when we are looking for a Dutch candidate, and then it's not. So it's better to explicitly state that. Your date of birth would be a nice, it would be also something really nice to have. And other than that, your education setup, a one-line objective would be good enough. Then you follow it with your education, then your experience, then your projects, and please don't forget to mention your extracurriculars and your hobbies, because in this market they really want to know other than what you have done. Yes, other than your studies, what you have done. So like if you have singing, dancing, or whatever it is, mention that, because they might ask you a question in the end and they'll say you haven't written that, because we want to know you a bit more than your educational and work background.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, sometimes it's unexpected that qualities that you can put in your CV then are really relevant for some companies. And
some people also, some companies also, if you have a nice picture of yourself, they prefer that in the corner. They said that, hey, it gives them a personal touch for some recruiters.
In continuation with the CV question, Chinmay, sometimes like when you're talking about your work experience, sometimes you have a description below, sometimes you don't. Is it necessary to have it, or how brief should it be? How elaborate should it be?
Yes, so CV should be catered according to the job description that you're applying to. If the experience is extremely relevant, then you should definitely put in, and with minimalistic description. By minimalistic, I mean mentioning extreme keywords which are really pertaining to that job description. Let's say if I am applying for a software-defined networking role, then I should put in the projects or the experience that I had in that field. So, with a one line is sufficient enough. So, yeah.
Okay.
I have a question for Joshua. How important are the grades when it comes to getting a PhD?
Good question. I don't know how important they are, but they are important. But sometimes I feel it's not about the grade. It is about having a strong character as a person. Number two, proper understanding of the field that you are in. And also how confidence can the people trust you, because I am in a marine animal ecology group. They don't have social science people. So the reason why they hired me is because I'm coming from the social science, because they wanted me to look at a social science perspective. So by that, and looking by my previous engagement in terms of the work experience, that is what they felt that I am a suitable candidate. And of course, this is my 7th month. I have not disappointed them, and I hope not to disappoint them. So the grades are important, especially if you didn't do your master's from the same university. I think by the fact that I had a chance to do my master's here, and I understand the system and everything, you are in a different scale compared to someone who has done a different master's in somewhere. Because what happened also when you come here, they realize that you are missing certain skills and you have to follow certain complex courses within master's program, which for me don't have to follow. I only follow courses in the PhD program. So that's for sure. So grades matters, but also your expertise, your confidence, and your character. It's a big thing in PhD. Yeah.
You also need to present for your application. You also need to present like a CV. For example, as Chinmay explained before, that you also need to show some characteristic in your CV when you apply for a PhD, or it's just about the your previous education?
Oh yeah, definitely. All CVs you tailor-made depending on the need or position that you're applying for. So often when they are looking in the PhD, they are looking at, have you done any publication? Do you have expertise in in the field that they are looking for? How does that knowledge connect with whatever they are looking for? So it is also important to say, if I say, let me give you a good example. Yeah, in the student council, what is my work of in the student council? The student council work is to represent the student and help or assist the executive board in decision making by contributing. So they need that statement to say that, oh, this is a policy maker. He understands the process. So these are the things they want to see in your CV. Just a small sentence, which should not be elaborate as much. Yeah, because sometimes you're also asked to make a CV of only one page. So a CV of one page, you need to decide, what do I include? What do I leave out, depending on the job that you're being asked. And sometimes you also do not need to have like a proposal. In some cases where in the headhunting situation, they will select you, and then you are supposed to develop. They give you a concept, and they tell you, can you develop your PhD ideas from this? But in some cases, when they press an advertisement for competitive selection, that is the point whereby you need to put a very good motivation letter, and that motivation pitch, that means is that you're trying to explain to them how suitable are you compared to another potential candidate. And I never went through that because they had hunted me. But after doing that, we also had like 2-3 meetings to discuss issues and how, yeah, also those discussion comes along as well. And they get to understand, oh, this is the person that we really need. Yeah.
For Chennai, how early should you start applying for a job? For example, usually there's some starting periods. For example, in September, how yeah.
That depends. So starting period for September is generally for traineeships and graduate programs. But if I have to talk specifically about TUs here, you never really know when you're going to graduate. That is a big factor that delays your application. I was in the same dilemma when I was last year. So I would say job hunt, you should have it when you know for a fact that, hey, in 3-4 months, I'm going to graduate. Then you can start looking for one, because that also is additional work that you have to do, because it's a fair amount of work. But yeah, other than that, you can't do much, because graduate programs usually start in September. So, and sometimes in October as well. So yeah, for that, if you are graduating before, then you can apply. But as is the case here, students generally don't have a great idea about when are they going to graduate. So
yeah, again,
I would say 3 to 4 months before.
And for Joshua, what is the recommended timeline from application selection until starting the PhD?
Well, in general, most of the PhD positions have timelines. So they will give a deadline when you're supposed to submit your document. They will also give you a timeline, tells you that once you submit, the pre-selection will be done after 1 month, and you'll be informed on a certain date. If you qualify for pre-selection, then they will do a next interview. And then after that, then if you are the successful candidate, then you're selected. and they always have an anticipation of like when to start. It is not you to define. They already have an anticipated date to start. And PhD are projects, and projects are funded, and funding also comes with conditions. So it means that most of the projects start either beginning of the year or quarterly or half year. So it is either in January, or if it is quarterly, it is somewhere around April or March, June, July, September, like that. So PhD doesn't have a specific time of starting. Like I started mine in December. You know,
Oh.
I started mine so in December. So PhD doesn't have like as far as you're within the framework of the project. But there is always guidelines for application, selection, pre-selection, and so on. Yeah. So you have to really check on the requirement of all the PhD position. But in the cases where they have to headhunt, there is no process of application, selection, because you sit down and you start engaging. Yeah.
And also, in case is there usually you connect with a university, or are there some platforms where you can find a PhD offers?
That's a good question. PhD actually, sometimes it's an affiliation with the university, because who gives you a PhD? It is a certain institute, that's the university. Sometimes you can be coming, a good example, I'm coming from Kenya. You can be affiliated with a certain research organization in Kenya. However, you want to enroll yourself or get your PhD with a certain university in the Netherlands, like Delft. And because Delft is known for water technology, and you're coming from the Ministry of Water and Technology, like in Kenya, they say, oh, we have these funds, and we want you to enroll yourself in Delft, and then we will fund everything there. So that's how it goes. Sometimes it is an affiliation. So sometimes there is no specific places that where you go looking for PhD, but you can also do that within university, because universities have two aspects. The university has the academic side of it, where they offer courses and teach courses, but they also have the side of the research. So go to those research sections and look for PhD position. Yeah.
Okay. And for Chima, how can one secure a job via an internship?
I'm sorry, I couldn't get you. Sorry.
Sorry. How can one secure a job via an internship?
From an internship, like converting an internship offer to a job. Okay. Yeah. So that's a good question that involves fair bit of work. My first answer. Secondly, to elaborate that, you really need to figure out if it's within your team, whether you're working in, so in an internship, you work within a team. So try to figure out who is having the head count. That means there'll be one guy who's the head of that. And you need to figure out whether he has a head count in near future. That you can do that by simply asking that person or going to the human resources team. And secondly, when you start working in a company, there are also other departments that you might be interested in, but there was necessarily no internship opportunity that was publicized at your time. So that's a good opportunity to go around, look around, talk to different people, or ask your manager himself that, hey, give me an overview of different backgrounds within the company, and then talk to the head of that department, because usually that's the person who has the head count. So it's more about searching who has the head count, and then eventually pitching yourself. And pitching yourself, by that I mean telling him what work you do, and staying proactive and, being, reaching out to him that, hey, I'm looking for a job. So the idea of all these things is, whenever they publicize a job, they know you. So they're like, okay, he's the guy. And to be very frank, it's very easy for them because you are an internal candidate and they will trust you more than an outsider. Because sometimes, usually when you're doing an internship, you are considered as an internal candidate. And then companies also save up money, to be very frank. They don't have to pay you a relocation cost. And like they would have to pay to an external candidate. So that makes your path easier.
Nice. And what would you say are the advantages of speaking Dutch, and how can you use that in a job research as an asset?
Can I add from the previous conversation about securing a job in an internship?
Sure.
I think that's a very important. It's a very important question, and that's how many people get job here, especially the international student, and also even the Dutch student. Of principle is, are you an asset? Are you an asset in the position that you've been given? Because the institution or the organization or the company spend time to train you. They build certain trust. They engage you. The most important thing is, are you an asset? Sometimes company don't have position, but they can create a position for you if they feel you're a suitable person to keep in their company. So put that in mind. Sometimes the company don't have the position, but depending on how good you are, man, you have a chances. Yeah.
Certainly. So, coming back about the question, also, do you think that if you're during your internship, you also or in any job research, if you speaking Dutch, you get more chance or advantages to
It fairly matters. If your job is customer facing, then definitely yes, you should learn Dutch, because usually if there's quite a legal job offer or anything where you talk to your customers which are not primarily Dutch, then you need to know Dutch. But if you work in a very technological field, then that's not a very hard requirement. They would want you to learn Dutch because might be that most of your colleagues might be Dutch, so that you don't feel left out amongst themselves. So that's the reason why they focus you. But on a very job perspective, for a techie job, no. But for a customer facing role, yes, you need to know Dutch.
Yeah, and in continuation with that, someone had asked, is it advisable to learn German than Dutch for better job prospects in the field of electronics?
Oh, yeah. I mean, yes, a fair answer is yes, because in Germany it's not, other than the major cities, it's not as fairly, you can't get away without speaking German. So because I had one of my senior who studied here, and then he eventually went to study in Stuttgart, work in Stuttgart in a radar company. And he did, I for a fact know that he started learning German since his bachelor days. So he had studied German, and that gave him a fair advantage. And that's why he's now working there as a radar engineer. So yes, on a personal note, yes, German language will give you an advantage in German market, but it's very important to evaluate and do your courses and your thesis first if you have not learned any language, because you're here for doing your master's first and then finding a job. So that's the priority.
And also another thing that I would like to know, for example, when you have a job interviews, do you have any tips to, for example, to have a nice, give a nice impression of yourself, how you should deal with, for example, a job interviews?
For a job interview, firstly, uh, I personally like to prepare for them. There are a few people who usually go on as it is, but I like to prepare for that. Be prepared for some general questions like what are your strengths, weaknesses, your situations wherein you have been nervous, how did you handle that, these kind of questions basically. And the most important part is to read the job description fairly thoroughly, and be well versed with what they demand from that job description, and then march on to your personal traits. uh, like there might be few traits which they are looking for in the job description that you might have, so try to explain them via examples. And yeah, examples are a very important way to explain what you want to convey, so that's how you connect to the recruiters. And and yeah, I mean, you're if you're applying for a technological job, then you will have a technical interview, so you need to prepare also somewhat for that. But generally, according to my experience, interviews are fairly general. They don't ask you that much technical questions, is what I have at least faced. They want to know you as a person, and as Joshua said, character matters a lot. um, they are really looking for you, because in the end they'll invest in you, so they want to turn out they want their investment to turn out good, basically. So
And do they see your grades with your CV? Like, is that important?
definitely not.
No.
So,
Okay.
but no, but there is a thing. If you are applying in a research organization, let's say TNO, then they look at your grades. They'll have a glance at you. The first thing is they ask you, okay, in this course, how much you got, and then they might also confirm it. So in research organizations, yes, they look at your grade, but in commercial companies, it's a no.
Okay.
So,
All right.
uh,
Sorry, Fra. I have to stop you. We're running short of time, so I'm gonna try and conclude it now. Yeah. So thank you for both of you to agree to do this event. I think it was very informative, and I hope all the participants took something from this event. We do have a small token of appreciation for you guys. I think the representatives of ISOW and DIS will give them to you personally sometime next week. Yeah, I hope you enjoy it. And yeah, I think on behalf of the entire team, we wish you all the best, and we hope you have really bright futures. And if it's okay with everybody, could we sort of switch on everyone's camera and take a picture together? I mean, in COVID times, this is what we can do. So whoever's comfortable, if you can just switch on your cameras and we can take a picture together. And you can also see the diversity of people who have attended the event. All right. I am very technologically challenged. Can someone else from the team take a picture?
I'll take a picture.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. All right. Maybe you can say like 3, 2, 1, so everyone knows what's happening.
Yeah, 3, 2, 1. Yeah.
All right. And for the participants, you can send us your feedback on what you thought of the event. In the event you want us to organize stuff similar to this in collaboration with ISOW and DIS, please let us know. Any sort of feedback is valuable. And yeah, thank you everybody for coming, and hope you have a great weekend.
Thank you very much for inviting us, and good luck to everyone. Yeah?
No, not at all. Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Both Chinmay and Joshua, if you could, if it's okay with you, if you could sort of in the public chat give in your LinkedIn and email ID for people to contact you. yeah, I completely forgot. Some people had asked me to do that.
Yeah.
I'll do that.
Okay, great. So yeah, everybody, you can feel free to leave the Zoom session now.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.